It all started with a quiet thought that refused to leave his mind. I can't live the same year again. For a long time, Daniel had been moving through life on autopilot. Wake up, work, scroll, sleep, repeat. Days passed, months disappeared, and every new year felt like a copy of the last one. He wasn't miserable, but he wasn't alive either. Deep inside, he felt something was missing. One evening, as the year slowly came to an end, Daniel sat alone by his window. The city lights flickered outside, full of motion and promise, while his own life felt painfully still. That's when a realization struck him with unusual clarity. Change doesn't begin with motivation, it begins with a decision. He understood something powerful that night. The next year wouldn't magically be better. Hope alone wouldn't transform his life. Only intentional steps, taken one by one, could do that. So he asked himself a question that would change everything. If I truly wanted my life to be different next year, what would I need to change first? That question became the doorway to a new path. A path built on 4 simple but life-changing steps. And this was only the beginning. In the next part, Daniel takes the first step, the one most people avoid, but without which no real change is possible. The first step didn't look impressive. It didn't feel exciting, but it was the most honest thing Daniel had done in years. He stopped lying to himself. One quiet morning, before the world woke up, Daniel sat with a notebook and wrote a single sentence at the top of the page. "This is my life, exactly as it is." Then he began. He wrote about the habits he kept avoiding, the goals he talked about but never acted on, the fear that whispered, "What if you try and still fail?" and the truth he rarely admitted. He was busy, but not progressing. At first, it hurt. Clarity can feel uncomfortable because it removes excuses. But as the pages filled, something strange happened. The weight on his chest began to lift. For the first time, he wasn't confused anymore. He was aware. Daniel realized a powerful truth. You can't change what you refuse to see. Most people want a new life without examining the old one. They chase motivation, quotes, and shortcuts, but real transformation begins when you dare to look at your life without filters, without blame, and without denial. So Daniel did one more thing. He drew 2 columns. On the left, he wrote, "What drains me?" On the right, he wrote, "What moves me forward?" The list was simple, but revealing. That morning, Daniel didn't change his life yet, but he changed something even more important, his awareness. And awareness, he would soon learn, is the spark that sets everything else in motion. In part 3, Daniel takes the second step, the one that turns clarity into action and separates dreamers from doers. Clarity opened Daniel's eyes. But clarity alone didn't move his life forward. He learned something crucial that week. Knowing what to change is useless if you don't choose what to start. Daniel used to believe that change had to be big and dramatic, a new routine, a perfect plan, a complete transformation overnight. That belief had kept him stuck for years. Every goal felt too heavy, too demanding, so he postponed them all. This time, he decided to do the opposite. Instead of asking, "What should I fix in my whole life?" he asked, "What is one small promise I can keep today?" Just one. After thinking quietly, he chose something simple: 10 minutes every morning to work on himself. No phone, no distractions, no excuses. 10 minutes didn't scare him. 10 minutes didn't require motivation. 10 minutes felt possible. The first morning was awkward. He sat there, unsure of what to do, but he stayed. The second morning felt easier. By the 5th day, those 10 minutes had become a private space, his space. Daniel discovered another truth most people miss: consistency beats intensity every time. He wasn't changing his entire life yet, but he was proving something powerful to himself. I do what I say I will do. That small commitment began to reshape his identity. He no longer saw himself as someone who tries. He started to see himself as someone who acts, even when it feels uncomfortable or imperfect. And slowly, quietly, momentum was born. In part 4, Daniel faces the third step, the one that tests his discipline and forces him to let go of what's holding him back. Daniel thought progress was about adding more habits, more goals, more effort. He was wrong. As his small daily commitment continued, something became painfully clear. Some things in his life were quietly sabotaging his growth, not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently. Late nights scrolling without purpose, conversations that drained his energy, commitments he kept out of habit, not intention. So the third step wasn't about doing more, it was about letting go. One evening, Daniel asked himself a difficult question. If I keep everything the same, where will I be 1 year from now? The answer scared him. Letting go felt uncomfortable. It meant saying no. It meant disappointing people. It meant facing silence instead of distraction. But Daniel realized something essential. You cannot build a new life while clinging to the old one. He started small. He set a boundary with his phone. He stopped explaining his goals to people who didn't respect them. He protected his mornings like they mattered, because they did. Each thing he released created space for focus, space for energy, space for growth. For the first time, Daniel felt lighter, not because life was easier, but because his choices were clearer. And then came the final step, the one that would determine whether this change would last or fade like every attempt before. In part 4, Daniel discovers the fourth step, the key to making change permanent and turning this year into a turning point. Daniel used to think success came from talent, luck, or perfect timing. But the fourth step taught him something far more powerful. Lasting change comes from identity. Up until now, Daniel had been doing new things. Now he had to become someone new. One morning, during his quiet 10 minutes, a thought crossed his mind. What kind of person lives the life I want? Not what habits they have, not what goals they chase, but who they are every day, especially on hard days. Daniel realized that the real enemy wasn't failure, it was quitting. So he made a new rule, simple but unbreakable. No matter what happens, I don't quit on myself. Bad day, he still shows up. Low energy, he still does the minimum. Doubt, he keeps moving anyway. This shift changed everything. He stopped measuring success by results. He measured it by showing up. Some days were messy, some days felt pointless, but Daniel kept going. And slowly, something incredible happened. Discipline replaced motivation, and confidence replaced fear. He was no longer chasing a new life. He was living as the person who creates one. That's when Daniel understood the truth behind the 4 steps. Clarity showed him where he was. Small commitments taught him to move. Letting go created space to grow. Identity made the change permanent. The year ahead wasn't perfect, but it was no longer wasted. And neither would the next one be. Daniel expected fireworks, a sudden breakthrough, a dramatic moment where everything changed. Instead, life stayed quiet. Weeks passed, then months. His routine was steady, his habits were simple, and at times he wondered if any of it was really working. The old impatience whispered, "You should be further by now." But something inside him was different. He noticed small signs most people overlook. He woke up with less resistance. His mind felt clearer. He reacted instead of overreacting. He kept promises to himself, especially on days no one was watching. That's when Daniel discovered a lesson that changed how he saw time. Progress is invisible before it becomes undeniable. Just like seeds under the soil, his efforts were growing quietly. No applause, no shortcuts, just steady roots forming beneath the surface. One evening, he looked back at who he was months ago, the confused, tired version of himself, and realized something profound. He would never trade this new inner stability for quick results. Patience, he learned, wasn't waiting. It was trusting the process while continuing to act. And for the first time, Daniel wasn't rushing to become someone else. He was becoming himself, day by day. Just when Daniel started to feel stable, life tested him. An unexpected problem at work, a personal disappointment he didn't see coming, old habits knocking at the door, promising comfort and escape. For a moment, everything inside him wanted to go back to distraction, back to excuses, back to the version of himself that avoided discomfort. That night, Daniel sat in silence, feeling the weight of the past tug at him. And then he remembered something crucial. Growth is proven under pressure, not in comfort. This wasn't a setback, it was a test. Instead of reacting, Daniel paused. He didn't make dramatic decisions. He didn't abandon his routine. He did the simplest, strongest thing he could do. He stayed consistent. 10 minutes, one clear choice, no quitting. The urge passed, and with it, a powerful realization emerged. The old life doesn't disappear, it loses power when you stop feeding it. Daniel went to bed that night feeling tired but proud, not because the problem was solved, but because he didn't abandon himself. He understood now, every challenge wasn't an obstacle, it was a checkpoint, confirming that change was real. Daniel didn't announce his transformation. He didn't post quotes or explain his journey. Yet, people noticed. A colleague asked why he seemed calmer. A friend commented on his focus. Someone close to him said, "You've changed, in a good way." Daniel was surprised. He hadn't realized how loud consistency can be. That's when he learned another quiet truth. When you change, you give others permission to change too. He started listening more, speaking less, choosing his words carefully. Without trying to lead, he became an example, and without preaching, he inspired curiosity. One evening, a friend asked him, "How did you do it?" Daniel smiled and answered honestly, "I stopped waiting for the perfect moment. I started with one small promise and refused to quit." That sentence stayed with him. He realized his journey was no longer just about himself. The discipline he built, the clarity he gained, it was contagious, not because it was loud, but because it was real. And in that moment, Daniel understood something deeply meaningful. Your growth is never wasted. Someone is always watching, even when you don't know it. Despite all the progress, doubt returned. One afternoon, Daniel compared himself to others, people who seemed further ahead, more accomplished, more successful. Old thoughts crept back in. Am I really doing enough? What if this isn't leading anywhere? For a brief moment, confidence wavered. But then Daniel caught himself. He remembered who he used to be, lost, inconsistent, waiting for change instead of creating it. And he realized something critical. Comparison was pulling him away from his own path. That night, he wrote a new definition of success in his notebook. Success wasn't speed, it wasn't recognition, it wasn't perfection. Success was alignment. Waking up and acting in harmony with his values, ending the day knowing he honored his word, moving forward without betraying himself. The pressure lifted. Daniel understood that the goal was never to become someone else. It was to become more himself, consistently. From that day on, he stopped asking, "Am I ahead of others?" and started asking, "Am I moving in the right direction?" The answer, for the first time in his life, was yes. Daniel didn't chase opportunities. He prepared for them. For months, he had been working quietly, learning, improving, staying consistent even when no one applauded. And then, unexpectedly, an opportunity appeared. Not a miracle, not a shortcut, just a moment that required readiness. A new responsibility at work, a chance to step forward instead of staying silent. A moment where the old Daniel would have hesitated. This time, he didn't. Daniel said yes, not because he felt fearless, but because he felt prepared. That's when he understood a powerful truth. Opportunities don't change your life. Preparation does. If this moment had arrived a year earlier, he would have doubted himself. He would have looked for excuses. But now, his habits supported him. His mindset carried him. He didn't become perfect overnight, but he became reliable. And reliability, he learned, opens doors faster than talent ever could. As Daniel walked home that evening, he smiled, not because everything was certain, but because he was ready for uncertainty. Daniel noticed something unexpected. Even after all his progress, fear still showed up. Before important moments, his heart raced. Before big decisions, doubt whispered. Before stepping into the unknown, confidence sometimes disappeared. And yet, he moved anyway. That's when he understood a lesson most people never learn. Confidence is not required to act. Courage is. The old Daniel waited to feel ready. The new Daniel chose to move while uncertain. He stopped asking, "Am I confident?" and started asking, "Is this aligned with who I'm becoming?" If the answer was yes, he took the step, nervous or not. Slowly, fear lost its power, not because it vanished, but because it no longer controlled his decisions. Daniel realized that confidence is often the result of action, not the cause. Each time he acted despite doubt, trust in himself deepened. And with that trust came freedom. Daniel used to think growth was about chasing more success, more results, more validation. But one quiet evening, as he reflected on how far he had come, he realized something surprising. Gratitude had changed him more than ambition ever did. He remembered the man he was a year ago, tired, distracted, uncertain. And for the first time, instead of criticizing his past, he thanked it. That version of himself had survived, had searched, had chosen to start. Gratitude softened him without weakening him. Each night, Daniel began writing 3 simple things he was grateful for. Not big achievements, just honest moments. Showing up even when it was hard. Saying no when it mattered. Keeping a promise to himself. This practice grounded him. He noticed that when gratitude entered his life, impatience left. He stopped chasing the future aggressively and started respecting the present. And strangely enough, progress felt faster. Daniel understood then, gratitude doesn't slow ambition, it purifies it. He was no longer running away from who he was building from it. There was no celebration, no applause, no dramatic announcement. Yet something fundamental had shifted. One morning, Daniel noticed the silence inside him. Not emptiness, peace. The kind of calm that doesn't come from having everything, but from needing less. He realized he no longer rushed to prove himself. He no longer feared falling behind. He no longer needed constant validation. This was the quiet win. Daniel understood that true transformation isn't loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It settles gently into your life and changes how you breathe, how you think, how you respond. He wasn't fearless. He wasn't perfect, but he was grounded. And for the first time, success didn't feel heavy. It felt light. That's when he realized something profound. Peace is the ultimate sign that change has worked. For the first time in years, Daniel thought about the future without tension. No tight chest, no rush, no fear of not being enough. He understood that uncertainty would always exist. Challenges would come. Some plans would fail. But none of that frightened him anymore because he trusted the person he had become. The future was no longer something to escape into or fear. It was something to meet. Daniel stopped asking, "What if everything goes wrong?" and started asking, "How will I respond when it does?" That question changed everything. He knew now that success wasn't about controlling outcomes. It was about controlling effort, values, and direction. Whatever came next, he would face it with clarity, consistency, boundaries, and identity. The 4 steps that had reshaped his life. And then he smiled. Not because the road was easy, but because he was ready. Daniel never claimed to have all the answers, but if he could leave behind one message, it would be this: you don't change your life in 1 year. You change your direction in 1 decision. Everything that followed, clarity, discipline, boundaries, and identity, started the moment he stopped waiting and started choosing. He didn't become extraordinary. He became consistent, and that made all the difference. If you're reading this at the edge of a new year, remember, you don't need motivation. You don't need perfection. You don't need permission. You need one honest look at your life, one small commitment you keep, one thing you let go of, and one identity you refuse to abandon. The next year will pass anyway. The only question is, will you still be the same, or will you be stronger? Start today. Start small, but start. Because the life you want isn't waiting for the future. It's waiting for you.